welcome to another weekly update. I hope you're doing well. If you're in the UK, it's a lovely sunny day today as I'm recording this. Apologies if that's not the case where you are, or if it is the case but you've had far too much of it. I know in the US, our friends there have had an awful lot of heat. What it's meant in Europe, weirdly, is that we've had very cold weather, actually, abnormally sort of much colder weather than normal. So it's nice to see a bit of sun and a bit of warmth. Anyway, a couple of things to tell you about this week. Nothing really Copilot-y apart from something right at the end, which is more about taking away Copilot functionality. But I think probably coming off a build, all those teams readied all of their Copilot announcements to get them out around the build timeframe. And so there isn't anything new being announced, and we're in that kind of pause now while we wait for some of the things that were talked about and that were announced at build to actually kind of make fruition, to get out of those private previews, to make it out into our hands so we can play with them. All right, so in the meantime, though, a couple of other things that have been going on. Let's start with Microsoft Teams for developers. And there's some new capabilities that are coming to Teams meeting apps. And so this is from the Microsoft 365 platform blog. And there's a new blog post here around building engaging apps for Microsoft Teams meetings with new content sharing capabilities. So a couple of things. So there's already, this is already existing functionality. I think a lot of this, what is new is the ability to, hang on, this isn't new. I think what is new is the fact that all apps that are pinned in Teams meetings will now get natively a screen sharing capability. Whether you like it as a developer or not, people will be able to people will be able to share the apps that they're using in meetings. They'll be able to share that to the rest of the meeting. Now, if you've already built in your own sharing controls and your own sharing mechanism, that gets used instead. So you get to sort of say, if you like, what gets shared. If you don't, this is how you can say what gets shared. You implement the share app content to stage function. But if you don't do that, by default, the whole app gets shared. And for many developers, that's probably fine. So if this has been on your to-do list to think, I must sort out sharing to the stage in meetings, if it's all right for the whole app to be shared, then maybe don't worry about it, because this is coming as a first-party benefit for everyone. It's just going to be something that's going to be built into the Teams meeting that people using your app are going to be able to share it. So that's kind of nice, and that's good to see. So there is, like I say, if you want more granular control, absolutely you can do that. So you can enable very specific content. That might be useful, especially if you want to give users options for sharing different things at different times to the stage. That's totally a thing as well. And then there's some enhancements, which I'm not really quite sure what the enhancements are. I think more control, more functionality maybe over the share to teams enhancements. So there's a share to teams control already, but I think it's had some investment. So now it will do some clever stuff. So looking at how things get added to meetings and you share it into a meeting, it will now install the app, it will auto open it, it will notify the meeting participants. It's just a nicer experience, I think. So that stuff's been tidied up, which is nice. And then towards the end of this blog post, there's an example of the whole thing in action. So you can see some screenshots and a couple of technical requirements and what you can do. So yeah, good blog post, a nice roundup of some changes. Again, it's one of those sets of changes where you could just ignore it and your app will just get better without you having to do anything. So you'll benefit from that sharing into a meeting functionality, and you'll benefit from improved share to teams functionality. But if you want to lean into it, you can make things even better. So that's nice as well. All right, let's move on. Something slightly more esoteric, I suppose, but admins will be happy. Pre-approval of RSC permissions. So this is adding yet another layer onto resource-specific consent permissions, which is the idea that an application can request permissions for very specific, like resource-specific consent around. So for instance, when your app gets added into a Teams, you can have control over that team, to manage that team, but you don't get control to manage all teams, just that one team. What this blog post is talking about, what this announcement is talking about, it's not even an announcement actually, it's just a Microsoft Learn page, which I shall show you. is pre-approval of RSC permission. So this is for an IT admin to say, okay, these are the things that RSC can cover. All right, so this is definitely one of those things that if you don't fully understand it or you don't think you need it, don't worry about it. This is one of those, if you know you need it, you know you need it. And if you don't, Microsoft will handle what they call the managed by Microsoft state, which is like the recommended set of policies for doing RSC. Now, if you want to step outside of those policies and implement your own policies for how RSC works by default, you can do that. It's a public developer preview right now. It's all done in PowerShell. You can make your own pre-approval policy and then you can apply it. And the blog post goes into all sorts of detail for exactly how you do that. Again, I'm going to say it again just to stress it. If you don't think you need this, you don't need this. If you're an IT admin and you know you need this, you want to do this pre-approval, you want to change the RSC permission policy away from that managed by Microsoft state, go read this blog post. Sorry, go read this Learn page. It's got lots of detail in it. It tells you exactly how to do it. And it's great that it exists, but I think for most people, they won't need it. All right, and then finally, to a source we don't often talk about and go to very often, at least we haven't for many years, is ZDNet. So I used to go to ZDNet back in the day for Mary Jo Foley, which is a long time ago. And I'm sure I did weekly updates calling out some of Mary Jo Foley's stuff in ZDNet, but I might be conflating two different time periods in history. Doesn't matter. They're back with an interesting blog post I wanted to draw your attention to, because Microsoft has quietly, well, fairly quietly, I suppose, got rid of the Copilot Pro GPT Builder. Okay, so what is this? So back in, well, I guess probably maybe this time last year, something like that. It might even be in the blog post. We were talking about GPT builders. I know it was only sort of 3 months ago, I think. Mid-March, there we go. There was going to be a Copilot GPT builder that worked similarly to OpenAI's ChatGPT Plus builder. Looks like what's happening is that there's a support page. Microsoft say that they are going to be removing the ability to create GPTs starting July 10th, and then they're going to delete all GPTs from July 10th through July 14th. Okay, here's the official end of support page for that. And so they've got, this is the why. They're prioritizing core product experiences. So they're focusing their efforts and shifting our focus on GPTs to commercial and enterprise, and they're stopping GPT efforts in consumer Copilots. So importantly, this is the consumer side of things. It's not the enterprise side of things. When it got announced, the idea was going to be that you could write Copilots as plugins for, very similar to, like I say, to OpenAI's ChatGPT for consumer. And I remember having conversations with people about, let's lean into this, let's write some plugins for the consumer Copilot and where we could go with that. Luckily, I didn't lean into it too much, or I forgot about it, or other things took precedence because, like I say, it's being retired. It may come back, I guess. There's no, it doesn't sort of say here that it's not ever coming back, but yes, a little end of support announcement there for GPT Builder for Copilot to consumer. Kind of sad, but I kind of get it as well. Microsoft have spread themselves very thin right now, and so I guess some things have to drop. And I would much rather, for the record, I would much rather this happen in this way and they stop it and terminate it and let it die, rather than keeping it in a kind of perpetual coming soon, private preview, very, very long life cycle thing. So this might come back in the future, and that's great. But for now, I think, Microsoft need to focus on delivering on all the things they've promised in the enterprise space for Copilot. So I guess it does make sense that they are kind of retiring or sort of stopping work, if you like, on the consumer side. And it may also be related slightly to, uptake or not of Bing and how that's worked out. All right, that's enough waffling from me. I'm going to let you get on with your day. Have a great week, whatever it is you're doing, and I'll speak to you again next time.